This episode of Jocks and Jills is brought to you by Shark Ninja, Shark Beauty, Shark Home, and Ninja Kitchen. And today we want to tell you about the Ninja Crispy, the 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer cooking system. Whether you're whipping up a quick single-serve meal in 7 minutes, sharing crispy snacks on the go, or serving a crowd, the Ninja Crispy makes it easy. And guys, no delivery or takeout food comes into my house without first making a stop in the Ninja Crispy to get a little bit even more delicious before I eat it. So
I think too, having that thing on your desk at work.
Yeah, dude.
I'm not a microwave person. I am not.
I'm not a microwave person. And listen, if you're the type of person that brings something nasty, no, not something nasty. You don't like fish. I actually like fish.
Don't.
But if you bring fish to work and you put it in the microwave.
Huge foul. I'm sorry. Don't bring fish to work. But
you
if you
are
do,
a bad, bad person. But if you do, just get yourself a Ninja Crispy and then you could do your own like little heat up in your own portable glass air fryer cooking system. So shout out to Ninja Kitchen and Shark Ninja, proud founding partners of the PWHL, our presenting sponsor here at Jocks and Jills. Okay, Tessa, let's get into it. Episode 35 of Jocks and Jills. We're back from Ottawa. It was fun. I feel like we're both sitting here kind of awkwardly to start this podcast.
we're
right
both
now.
like, how do we go about doing this one? You know, what are we doing here? Actually, I think it's episode 36 if my count is right. However, it's episode
Yeah,
30
you are.
something. Julia and I are a little thrown off, obviously, because as you all know, we were so excited for our trip to Ottawa, TD Place, where I was jazzed. I'm like, I cannot wait because Julia gets to go there and cover games. And look, for 40 minutes of hockey time and also for like 2 hours game lead up, I was having the time of my life. It was a blast. Ottawa, love you. I know a lot of you don't love us right now. However, we had a fantastic
We love Ottawa.
we had a fantastic pregame. We went to Craft Brewery. We stopped there on purpose to try Emily Clark's beer, which is legit.
It's unreal.
Need 7 cases of that beer ASAP shipped directly to my door. My 40th is coming up. I feel like that's what I want to serve. Shout out to our server who was just a doll. This guy, Julia, we were like, hey, at first we were kind of like, I wonder if he's going to want to do this. So we threw him, you know, we planted the seed a little bit. Like, this is what we would like to do for a post. And he was like, absolutely. And I didn't expect him to like go into full actor mode. And he totally,
killed it.
He delivered. I was like, I want to hug that man. I high-fived
I know.
him.
I'm trying to remember his name right now. I think it was Andrew. Maybe was our
something like
waiter
that.
at Craft Brewery. If you're listening right now, he sounded like he was a bit of an Ottawa Charge fan, bit of a hockey fan. He was asking us about expansion and stuff, and he absolutely he even improv'd a line. Like, we didn't ask him
Totally.
to say a line or anything. He improv'd an amazing line. We kind of like redid, to pull the curtain back, we kind of like redid the pizza ad that we did. We wanted to have Emily Clark deliver us one of her Wheat 26 beers, and the plan was for her to film it with us after the game. And obviously I've worked in content for a while now, Tessa, and the scrapyard of content that has been thrown out when a game doesn't go the way that you want it to go
I can
is
imagine.
huge. Like, do you know how many Leafs advanced graphics I've made in my life?
Lots, apparently.
So many, and different memes for if they make it. So you gotta have stuff prepared for any situation. And we were not prepared for what happened in Ottawa, though. Like,
No.
I did not have stuff prepared for what happened.
Can I just say though, Andrew, if that's your name, I can't remember, but we will probably by the end of the episode. He came back even after we had our first, and he was like, anybody want another Clarkie? He like nicknamed it Clarkie. And we were like, we love you. We love this guy. Like, what a legend. Anyways, thank you. They were glorious. It hit the spot. And so did the Spicy Marks post game. They really helped kind of weather away what we experienced in game.
Guys, if anything like that happens ever again, you go across the street, you go to local, and you get yourself a few spicy guava margaritas, because those
Glorious.
are unbelievable. Tessa, you know me, like, I could nurse a drink. Like, I could really nurse a drink.
You're putting me to
I
shame.
think I was dusting these like pink
So
margaritas.
what happened was I ordered myself a double mule, and I was like, can't even wait. And then it was delivered not in like those copper mule cups.
As soon as I saw it, I was disappointed for you.
I
If you
know.
bring me a Moscow Mule and it's not in a copper cup, Bring it back.
Bring it
I
back.
don't even want it.
Well, I
It's
didn't want to
canceled.
send it back. I was like, I'm going to
No,
be
the girl we had
polite.
was so nice. Yeah, I
She-
wouldn't actually do that, but
Was
that's
she
just how I
nice?
feel in my brain.
Was she nice, Julia? First of all, before we ordered these drinks, everybody, she's like, okay. She said something and I was like, not really listening. And then Julia's like, Tessa, IDs. And I'm like, oh, okay. I go to grab mine. She's like, no. I don't need yours. I was like, okay. Womp
Did I say
womp.
Tessa IDs? That was on. She was only gonna ID Buckles. Like I'd already ordered my drink, and Buckles in her little backwards hat, like looking like TJ Detweiler, 15 years old. I'm like, Buckles getting ID'd.
Well, all of you's got ID'd.
And then I got residually ID'd. And
I got residually denied. She was like, you do not need to be ID'd, ma'am. I was like, thanks a lot.
She said she saw your wedding rings, in fairness. I know, but I always used to, like sometimes when I worked at Moxie's, it would be a play to ID the older guys coming in.
Really?
I'm like, can I
Bigger
check your
tips.
IDs? Yeah, exactly.
Smart.
It's part of the game, girl. Just like take her ID.
Still tipped her.
Anyways.
Yeah, I was jealous when Julia's drink got put down because mine wasn't the way I wanted it. And so I was like, kind of like sadly sipping mine. And I looked over, I was like 4 sips in and Julia's like, what's taking everyone so long? And I was like, oh my good God. I was like, I need to hurry up. And I was like,
and
you know
I don't
what?
know what came over me. Like they turned the lights on.
Well, literally, because I was like, her drink looks really good, but it might not be good. And then when I saw you drank it all, I was like, that's it. I'm changing teams. I'm joining Julia's squad. I'm getting at least one of those. So that's when I hucked my drink and I was just like, lady, please, here's my ID. I would like one of Julia's.
Please. Unreal. Highly recommend the drinks there. Everyone in Ottawa was so nice. We'll talk about that Ottawa game specifically in just a second, but thank you to everyone who came and listened to our live podcast in Ottawa. Thank you for everyone who listens to the pod there. Like, I know we did that thing on the Jumbotron between the second and the third, and again, we'll talk about that, but you guys showed us so much love. Like,
look at this.
The cheering and the clapping and the bracelets. Oh my gosh, we got a couple amazing shirts made for us.
She got my Shirley girlies in there.
Says Enzo and it says pasta and like those are things you guys know us so well.
Love it.
I'm kind of I've said this to Tessa before, like I'm kind of an extroverted introvert. Like if I don't know people, like sometimes I'm an extreme extroverted introvert. Like I need my recharge time, social battery wise. But usually that's with people that I don't know. But when we meet people that listen to the podcast test, it's honestly really cool because I don't really have to tell them anything. I'm like, oh, you guys know me. You know what's going on. I don't have to fake anything here. You know, I accidentally got my dog a little high. Like, you know me. Like, we are friends. We've shared many moments on this podcast.
100%.
So we're so lucky to get to meet you guys in person. Tessa made her first bracelet exchange with a lady named Teresa.
Yep. She was like, she gave me one for Annie and Theo, I think, too. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give you one of mine. And I've never done this before. And she was like, she kind of like stopped and looked at me like, and I was like, I know. And then I found out I had met her when she was 13, way back.
Oh, yeah.
She was just a little pup at an event I was at. And she pulled up a picture and I was like, oh, that's so cute. Anyway, so I picked a good person to swap my first bracelet with. Now, everybody, don't think I'm doing that all the time, okay? That felt really weird. I thought about it the whole night. It was a strange moment.
I meant to bring my bracelet making kit to Ottawa. Before we go to Montreal, you and I should make some Jocks and Jills bracelets and then we'll actually have some that you feel comfortable giving away.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll make sure we do that. We'll be in we'll be in Montreal on Tuesday, guys. Anyways, is that about it for updates? We'll actually start talking about the game now. Are we good? Are we covered? Have we put enough disclaimers on this?
Go to headlines.
All right, let's do it. Headlines in the PWHL. This was a bit of an interesting one before the game. Maya Nyland-Person placed on the LTIR retroactively to March 16th with an upper body injury. I still haven't heard. I have to do some more poking around on this. There was a lot going on. I didn't end up getting to this one. But I'm thinking of Maya Nyland-Person, such a great player for the Sirens, and hope she gets back on the ice soon.
Yeah, it was retroactive back to March 16th. And I had asked their PR, Hannah, about it. She was like, you have to talk to Fargo or whatever. And then we did talk to Fargo and I totally forgot to ask because we went on the Ohio State rant and I was mad and cranky. And I totally forgot to ask.
And it was post game. And like we didn't even,
there's a lot
we were
happening.
in such a blender.
It's brutal. Anyways, that game. Our
so
minds
what
are still
the hell
blown.
Happened?
Our minds are still blown, by the way. Like, the only part of Ottawa's game I truly didn't like in the first two periods was there were moments where it literally could have been 5 or 6-0 for them. Just based on the fact that, and Buckles and I, it's funny because Buckle and I were sitting together. So you got a player that had recently just played in this league, specifically on the team, and someone that just loves watching and breaking down hockey. And I immediately became like a hockey parent, which was awful. It felt ick, but I was just like, when they're coming down, they're entering the zone, and you see them kind of take the puck wide. They go by the dots. They opt not to shoot, which to me in this league, I think the more shots, the better, because any type of rebound, these players are so fast. It creates chaos and scramble if the rebound is played improperly. Anyways, then they would skate behind the net, almost behind the net by the goal line, and they would force a pass into a mix of people in front of the net, hoping for a bounce or something. And like, if you're Daryl Watts, apparently that works all of the time, but she does it on purpose. But what I wanted Ottawa—
Depends who you ask.
I kept saying, depends who you ask. I kept saying, someone needs to pop in the soft space. There's soft space there. And I felt like the player was missing the opportunity to pop out and find that soft space. Soft space means like an open area of ice where no one really is yet. Like you're probably reachable by stick, but if it's a hard pass, it's a quick one-time shot. That was the only thing I didn't like about their game in those first two periods. I thought in the second period, New York came out and played really well. Their first period was a little blah. Second period, I was like, okay, New York's playing better. This third period should be fun. But like Ottawa's playing so good right now. Gwyneth Phillips looked hot. I was like, you know what? I'll never call it a shoo-in in this league specifically, but I was like, this is okay. We did our hit in the second period.
Yeah, so if you guys weren't at that game in Ottawa on Tuesday night, here's what happened. Tessa
blamed.
and I went on the video board. We went on the Jumbotron for like a 4-minute hit called Tessa's Takes. And I don't usually believe in the broadcaster curse. I don't actually ever believe in the broadcaster curse because like you have to do we still work in that space. Like you got to do an intermission show. Yeah. When you do the intermission show, you have to say the stats. And at that point in the game, I think the things I rifled out, Rebecca Leslie, first goal, member of the Ottawa Charge, jailbreak. Congratulations to her, local Ottawa girl. We had the crowd going crazy for that. Brianne Jenner, this was the dagger. When Brianne Jenner scores, you didn't screw up. You are a smart broadcaster, and you said the statistics. And honestly, I love the show Overdrive, our old friends at TSN. And Hayes just did the exact same thing with the Leafs.
Oh yeah,
because the Leafs had like a third period stat where they hadn't given up a third period lead or something to that effect all season. Hayes said it. The next game, they had that major combustion against San Jose? Yeah, or something stupid like that. And New York's in last place right now. They're a great team. We all know what New York is capable of and the firepower they have offensively. So you should never sleep on New York the way that maybe you should be able to sleep on San Jose right now. Whatever. But
listen, I'm gonna back us up. The stat, you were right. We said it. When Brianne Jenner scores, so far the team is 11 for 11 on wins.
11 for 11.
And we're like, hey, Brianne Jenner scored tonight. And I literally went, can you smell that? Does it smell like 12? And I said, but there's still 20 minutes left to play. And this is going to be the hardest 20 minutes of the game.
You said that. You said that verbatim. Guys. Because you and I are jinx aware. We're not savages out here trying to jinx teams. Like I went up there and I said playoffs, whatever. That's not a jinx. We're in the middle. This already is the playoffs for the Ottawa Charge
if they wanted
and the New York Sirens.
Yes.
Like saying the word playoffs is not a jinx. This is already like welcome to the playoffs for the Charge and the Sirens and also the New York Frost. Like they're already in playoffs right now as far as I'm concerned. So that's not a jinx.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
What did I say? What did I call them?
New York Frost. It's okay. Can you tell we're panicking and just really want to back ourselves up right now? But look, I would usually, if we did something like that, I would take full responsibility. I have no problem owning my crap. I will apologize if I have to apologize, which
of course.
I have apologized for even bringing it up. But like, listen, if we jinxed you.
We are sorry.
There is no such jinx that is so bad where your team cannot get a shot in the third period. That is not on us.
That's what I was going to say.
You could try and ice it.
We could not have jinxed them that bad. We would have had to lock them in the change room for what to have transpired.
Yeah, it's like they all took their melatonin right before going out there. I'm not sure what happened, but they went to sleep. Because even in talking with some of the New York ladies afterwards, I was like, so like, what was the chat in between intermission for you between the second and third? Like, what'd you guys change? And they're like, Honestly, nothing. We were like, all right, let's just get one and see what happens. That was their mentality. Like, we had a good second period. Let's keep playing like that. And I was like, and they're like, the third period felt very easy for us. And I was like, that's not good. You never want to be a team that's easy to play against, ever. Like, and I even said in our intermission chat, I was like, it's chippy out there. Like, Ottawa's giving it to them. Like, in the corner, whack. You're standing around, they're giving it to you. And I was like, that really wears on a team physically and mentally. And then that just stopped happening. And it was like, and then the turnovers weren't great. And it was so uncharacteristic. Like, since when, this is a friend and I'm calling her out and I feel bad for this, but like, since when, and this isn't a positive light, since when does, Jocelyn Larocque ever cough up a puck behind the net? Since when? Like, it was like all the stars and the moons and the planets aligned and it was just like, not today, Ottawa. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It really was like the most epic collapse I've ever seen in person. Not getting a shot in a period is a crazy thing to me. And weirdly, Toronto last night had a major span of time where they didn't have a shot against Boston either. So it was weird that happened in 2 games in a row. But I've seen it in the first period and I've seen it in the second period, and it's always a weird thing that you circle. But for that to happen in the third period,
when you have the lead,
is so disappointing. Like, you need more than that.
Yeah, and that's a locker room thing. Okay, like, sure, Carla can go in and kick a garbage can, but like in between periods, you're not. All you're saying is like, let's go, ladies. Like, you know how to play with a lead. Like, we could have hand plucked like 20 different players from any other team and have them never practice and not put a coach on the bench and just Yahtzeed lineup and thrown them out there, and they would have gotten a shot in that third period, I guarantee you. So like, that's a locker room thing. So who are your leaders? Okay. Those are the players that need to be the spark. So like, they get one. Okay, now you got a 2-goal lead. Danger. But like, you go to the bench as a leader, either you stand in front of it or you're on it and you're on your players. It's not happening today. And then you go out there and you have the best effing shift you've had the entire game. That's how it goes. Because someone's got to start rolling that snowball. And it has to be the leader. And listen, if it's not going to be, then someone else on the team needs to look around and be like, this is my opportunity. Like, I got to be this player. I need to be that person for this team right now. And like, just because the rest of the team ain't going doesn't mean they can't get going. You need that. So I think if I'm on that team or coaching that team, I'm telling my coach, please don't come in the locker room. Give us a minute and lock the door outside until we knock and say we're done. And you're sitting down, and whatever it is in that locker room that needs to be hashed out, hash it out. Because clearly there are voices in that room that are muted and numbed out, and everybody's tired of hearing them and whatever. So if you're tired of hearing from somebody, why? What is the reason? What's bothering you about that? Like, Cassie Campbell and Danielle Goyette used to hash it out in front of all of us all the time. And like, as a rook, you're like, holy shit. You know what I mean? And then it was over, done, squashed. And you know what? That elephant wasn't in the room. And all of a sudden we were lighthearted and fun again. We were playing better. And it's like, it was good. It's good to do that. Like, you can't, the more you let something fester and sit and let something about someone annoy you, like, who did we have on that? Oh, it was Poundy in this interview that's coming up. She was saying, you don't have to be best friends. And she's right. You don't, but you owe it to each other to be best teammates. And sometimes in a relationship, as we all know, you need to have those hard conversations, and you're better for it after. So like, rid the garbage, empty the garbage in that room. And quite frankly, it might not even be much, but getting it out of there and talking through it. Because once you start hashing things out with people, then at the end of it, you kind of start turning to love. You know what I mean? There's a love there. Like, it's like, you know what? Thank you for saying that and for calling me up. I didn't even realize I was doing that. Sorry, I didn't realize I was bugging. There's those moments. And like, maybe it needs to happen between the leadership group and the coaching staff too. Hey, this is really bugging us. Can we make an adjustment? These are really important games heading into the playoffs, and we need this to change. Cassie used to go up into Mel Davidson's office, I want to say once a week, and hash it out for us. And they had great conversations. And sometimes Mel was like, you know what? Sure, I'll give you that. And other times she was like, no, shut up, go down there and do your job. And it was like, okay. But at least you had that conversation and everyone knows where they stand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not
100%.
saying it's a big issue. I'm just saying to have a breakdown like that and to have no response over an entire 20, and as Brian Burke would say, have the 18-wheeler fall off a cliff.
That's what it was. It was more epic than the 2013, like that game. It was epic. Like, that game at least went to overtime and they were giving it back a little bit. I loved what you just said there, Tessa. I feel like this is a really pivotal, of course it's a pivotal point in the season for the Ottawa Charge.
And it's a good moment to have right now. Great moment.
But
Take it.
Carla said something like really similar to this after the game. She said something to the effect of, actually, let's play the clip right now.
We got to dig. We got to dig, and we got to find another gear for ourselves and another level. This is a great team. We see it. We see it so often. We saw it in 2 periods today. You know, it's staying in the course for 60, and the consistency piece has been something we've talked a lot about this year. You know, and it's scorched us here tonight again. And it's been in other games where we felt the same thing, where all of a sudden one period gets tilted. You know, it's unfortunate because it shouldn't be happening this late in the season. We should have a better grasp of it, but it's on us to find it and find it quick. And you know what? This is the group that can do it, and we just got to stay. We got to stay together. You know, these are the moments that can easily tear you apart, and then the rest of the season could be challenging. But that's not this group. This group, we need to reset. We got to figure out what went wrong, and we got to figure out what is making us great and how do we stay with it for the whole duration of the game.
And okay, wait, but do we want to tell everyone like how this went down from our POV?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So we were supposed to do an interview after the game with a couple of Charge players. Obviously, it just didn't feel right. So that didn't end up happening.
Yeah.
But we went to, right as the kind of second intermission was ending, there's a little bit of a room off of the kind of coach's room and off of the dressing room where I was able to do an interview last time I was in Ottawa. So that's where we were going to set up. And we're like, oh, let's go set up before the third, just as the third is starting. So we're setting up our mics, we're setting up our microphones. Oh, hi ho, here we go. Set up our little lights. And Buckles comes in the room and she goes, hey guys, it's 3-3.
We were like, come again?
What?
No, it's not. Yeah.
What? We've set up like 3.
There was a clock on the wall, and I looked. I'm like, how? And they're like, they just scored the third goal, and I was like, what are we doing in here? Like, we've basically missed the entire game.
Yeah. So we wanted to be honest about that. We did go back and watch it, but Megan Bozek was on the call for this one. So let's bring her in to get the deep analysis on what exactly happened in the meltdown to end all meltdowns in the PWHL. Okay, let's bring her in now. Olympian, world champion, birthday girl, Megan Bozek. When we asked you to do this, we didn't realize it was your birthday. So thank you so much for doing this.
Facts.
Not just on your birthday, but you are in Arizona on vacation. And we're just like dragging you into our mess to talk about what happened in Ottawa on Tuesday night. So thank you very much for being so gracious.
Of course, the pool is calling my name, but you find these relics at your parents' place. So I had to sport it. That national championship game on Sunday, literally, like, I went back to my college days. And Tess, like, I think you, like, just remembering some of,
I know,
like, your greatest games and obviously the heartbreak and whatnot. But yeah, it's fun to be on with you ladies. So thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Like she said, happy freaking birthday. Hope you're going to enjoy it and got a week full of fun ahead of you. But Julie and I, as we mentioned before bringing you on here, we were setting up, getting ready to do the interview. We were told it was tied. Our jaws hit the floor. We went out to look. We ran back in to quickly tear it down when the epic collapse happened. So in your mind, like, the first 2 periods I thought was great hockey. And then what was the major difference in Ottawa's play in the third? What stood out to you?
Nothing. And that's the problem. Like, they had all the momentum. I would say they held 35 of 40 minutes of the first 2 periods. I thought New York came out strong. They had chance after chance right away. Then that kind of tapered back. But both teams were trying to pass boards to boards, all cross ice passes. But then Ottawa was picking New York off. New York was then realizing they were doing the same thing. So they started to get tighter and tighter with their gap in the neutral zone. But something that Greg Fargo said between periods, if it was something or nothing at all, really sparked New York to say, let's just do this. Let's try something new or put pucks on net. So then you go from, I think they had maybe 17 shots going into the third period. And then you go on an 18-0 streak of shots. So if you're insane. And if you're Carla McLeod, you have to say, what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? Should I have shuffled the lines? When I notice people are just being complacent, something needs to change. So I saw a lot from them the first 40 minutes, and then I saw nothing from Ottawa. And then the complete opposite with New York. And I don't think those girls could believe it either. Like, the messages I was getting about the game, I was talking to some of the New York players too, and they're like, what just happened? Like, what
Everyone.
was that? Yeah, everyone.
Yeah. Have you ever been a part of a team that got no shots on goal in a period?
I don't think so. I honestly, I don't think I have. And I've been on the other side of it though, where we're trying not to shoot on net if we have a bigger lead, but I don't think I've ever gotten zeroed like that. And I didn't really clue in until in the third. Yeah, when it's a close ball game too. And after like Eldridge scores the first goal, and then they have 2 power play goals. So you need to stay out of the box. Yes, some calls can be controversial, but that's going to be in every game. But you have to switch something up. But we've seen Jocelyn Larocque play for how many years now? She is one of the best in front of the net with giving you that cross check, low back.
Yeah.
She'll push you, but she gets you out of the way. But then you could see the effect of her blocking shots. She had a huge block in the first period, but then her blocking shots and everyone else trying to block shots. So now the tips and the screens from your own players come into play. So poor Phillips is having a strong game. And then some of those pucks she didn't even see, but also Sarah Fillier's goals.
Yeah.
I dream of having a shot like that. Will never happen.
The Bozek bomb.
But picking a corner, with having no time or space on one of the goals, like I know. I was impressed. Unreal. Yeah, it was unreal.
Yeah. So what is it with Ottawa in your mind? I feel like they've struggled with consistency all season, not just game to game, but obviously, and it was magnified on Tuesday night, period to period. Is it consistency or can you call that an underlying issue? Like, what do you think it is about Ottawa that sometimes they just do this?
I feel like consistency in a pro league, you would take 5 minutes off, not a whole period. So I don't know if it's a consistency effort, if it's a buy-in effort, but for me, what sticks out is a complacency effort. 3-0 is a pretty good cushion going into the third period. You know what you need to do. Yes, you'll give up a goal, but I feel like everyone was complacent. And the stats have proven itself. Ottawa is 11-0 when Brienne Jenner scores. So Jenner scores. We're like, all right, we're like, all right, we got this. Like, this is, here we go.
Yeah.
Let's.
It's almost like they thought it was airmailed.
So absolutely, but you can see that, but also you could see it on the bench. So looking down at both of the benches after both teams score, obviously New York is all standing up now. They're talking. Fargo's engaged. And then on the other side, McLeod's just kind of leaning back, like scanning her bench. But I didn't see much change from the personnel that was out there switching lines. What do you do at that point? You have to switch something up. You have to. Maybe put your fourth line out there. Maybe try to match with something. Like Victoria Bach is so skilled, and I feel like she's underutilized.
Yeah. I think too, like, I mean, you've been in games where like your team's been down. And like, even when we played on the Furies together, we weren't one of the strongest teams. And even if we were playing the best team, we're going in the third. And, there's at least talk on the bench. Did you notice any talk happening in between the players? Like any type of leadership step up and get after the ladies?
I noticed nothing.
Like I was expecting someone to break their stick or lay a big hit and take a stupid penalty just because, and then look at the bench and be like, what are we doing? Do you know what I mean?
And the biggest thing that happened was a scrum in the corner where I don't know who stuck up for who, but it was a little scrum in the corner. And that was like the talk of the period.
Yeah. That and the massive comeback. But
Absolutely.
anyways, I wish this is like a murder mystery that could never be solved, I feel like. And the only people that have any type of
it? Like Ottawa was the killers and they killed themselves. New York was really good. That's like taking away a little bit from how New York stepped up.
Yeah.
But God, just to your point, Megan, like Ottawa gave us absolutely nothing to talk about in the third period. They just didn't bring anything to the table. Not even a shot. So that was what it was.
It's eye-opening.
Yeah.
Because you have all of this talent, but now it's, where do you go from here? If you're trying to make that playoff push, you're 2 points behind, trying to fight for that playoff spot, what do? You have to do something.
That's the craziest thing is you could have bumped yourself into a great position moving forward, heading into the women's worlds. And it was just like, whatever. Like that, it was just like not a good feel or look.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and I'm not saying that they're like whatever. You saw their post-game press conference. They were all pissed.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's what a team needs, I think, just a moment to kick themselves in the ass.
Yeah.
And maybe a different leader to step up. Maybe not a Brienne Jenner, maybe not a Jinty Rose, but someone else speak up, do something.
Yeah, totally. Well, Bose, we won't keep you from the poolside beverages, but we appreciate you taking the time. Tell little baby Beckett we say what's up. Give him a little squeeze from us and go enjoy yourself, pal.
I will. Thanks, ladies.
Enjoy.
Later.
Thank you. I love to hear Bosie on the call.
Bosie's
and I
the
honestly would have loved to hear her and Daniela reacting to that one. I'm sure it was a treat.
Yeah.
I've never really worked
I wouldn't call it a treat. I mean, unless
their reactions was a treat.
Yeah, the
is what
reaction
I'm
was a treat.
hoping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I've ever worked a game like that. Like been on an epic, I don't think I've ever been on the broadcast for an epic comeback game. Like I've been on the broadcast for a couple like epic last minute goals, but never a meltdown like that.
Yeah.
But you?
No, I don't. I mean, I've been a part of a team that has had not good games that were historical. Specifically, our preliminary round game against the U.S. in Burlington, Vermont, back in 2012. I believe we lost 9-3.
Is that the biggest one? That might be
the biggest.
That might still
margin.
hold.
One of Thanks, Julia. Yep, I was there for that. I didn't play much. That was the year that the coach benched me. Probably one of the worst coaches in Hockey Canada history. Dan Church had no hold of that locker room or anything. And I'm not mad that he didn't play me much because it's not a game you want 15 minutes of ice time in anyways. I was standing on the bench.
You don't want the plus minus there.
Dude, I was standing on the bench next to Kim St. Pierre eating, or was it Zabby? It was Zabby eating, we would stick gummy bears and stuff. We would hide them in each other's gloves. So we'd had snacks. So we'd surprise.
Oh yeah, you
there.
told me about this.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It started with me and Charlie, but Charlie was playing that, ended up going in that game. And I was like, oh man, this is
a snack with.
It's a tough one. But yeah, anyways, that game's one to forget, except for the snacks. Snacks were glorious. But yeah, those games, honestly, those games are what position did that game put you in? What is that game telling us about our team? I'm a person that believes the universe often tries to set you up to push you to where you're supposed to go. It has little door openings for you. And if you can continually ignore it, it just shoves you through it. And I think that the universe has put Ottawa in this place to handle something, and they can either accept that or not. So yeah.
Yeah. And we made this all Ottawa. Shout out to
New York.
Shout out to Jade Downey Landry. Who else? Somebody else had 2 goals in that game. It's escaping me right now. Oh my God, Sarah Fillier. What? Great game by her. Alex Carpenter had a great game. Kaylee Osborne got the win in her hometown.
We
in
heard
Ottawa.
Last time she was in Ottawa was her birthday, or they were supposed to be in Ottawa. It was going to be her birthday. She was going to celebrate there, and she got sick in Toronto, so they shipped her home. She never got her birthday got canceled, so she got to have her birthday and a birthday win nonetheless.
Yes. So really great for New York. 2 games in a row. I know that they obviously lost that first half of the home and home with Ottawa, but they get the Michigan goal to cheer for in that game from Abby Rock, and then they have the most epic comeback ever. So I know it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows this season in New York, but those are 2 pretty epic games back to back for Sirens fans. Okay, Thursday, or no, this was Wednesday night. Fun night in the PWHL. Doubleheader, a 2-screen night in my household. Is what these are called. And we love a 2-screen night, Liam and I. We buckle in, we're eating, we got the 2 screens going. It's like our dream night when there's lots of hockey to watch.
That's the best.
This was a great game. We'll start with Toronto and Boston. Boston came out flying in this one. They love playing at Aganis, eh?
I feel like that rink, well, look, it's packed. It was sold out. It was a Wednesday night. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
Boston proper.
Man.
Boston people love hockey. And if they don't have to
and they love their fleet.
The snow uphill to get there, they'll be there.
Yeah, and their signs were epic that game too. This was a battle for second place, Julia, and it didn't disappoint. I was like, I like this game. I like these 2 teams going toe to toe.
Unreal game.
Boston came out flying, like you said. They really pushed the play in the first 2 periods, I found. Renata Fast actually had an interview, and I didn't even think of it. I didn't notice it visually, which usually I do, but she was like, this is big ice. She's like, it's a new barn. We just got to get used to like utilizing it. And then Troy Ryan had an interview. He's like, I love the north-south hockey, but we got to use all the ice. We got to go east-west. And I was like, oh man, you know what? I was sleeping on that. I'm not sure how.
So rare that you hear a coach say that. Like, how often do you hear a coach say, I want to see more east-west?
But with big ice, east-west really opens up passing lanes, right? And it's forcing a goalie to go, cross ice. And every player all of a sudden has to have their head on a swivel. They have to really be paying attention. If you're just going north-south, it becomes a very dialed game. So I get it. Frankel was hot through 2. She made some really big, timely saves. It was 1-0 on a Hillary Knight goal through 2 periods. That's it. And it could have been easily 3-1 for Toronto at some point, just based on the massive saves that she made. So Erin Frankel was cooking in the first 2 periods. Like I said, Hillary Knight had that, obviously staying hot again. It is that time of year, Hillary Knight season, where I liked it. It wasn't, a booming shot. It was like, she's net front. You're not moving her. I've tried. And it was just a straight cleanup, doing her job.
Both her goals were like that. The second one was, I was wondering what your rating was of the second one was kind of a wraparound goal.
I know.
It was a wrap and stuff.
It was
what do we rate?
Which cool. I'll give you the wrap. The stuff I'm down because you got to stick with. When you
both
wrap,
those goals were pretty gritty.
A lot of people wrap and then just peter up to the blue line.
Yeah.
Not Hillary Knight.
Yeah, it was a wrap and stuff. It was awesome.
Another player that had themselves a night. And Frankel, I'm sorry that we have to bring this up, but come on, man. Daryl Watts is just haunting everybody these games, specifically in the dreams of, or the nightmares, I guess you could say, of Erin Frankel. I
put a trigger warning on the post last night. I put TW to all of our Northeastern friends. Everyone was mad at me. Like last week, we did a Daryl Watts interview and she broke down her NCAA championship winning goal in 2021.
Banking it off from behind the net.
Banked it off poor Megan Carter to win the championship. And then she does the same thing last night off Erin Frankel. And actually, that's a great point. I didn't make the connection in my head, but just there where you're talking about east-south, east-west, it did look like Erin Frankel got kind of lost there when Watts was able to put it.
So it kind of went off of, it was a high shot that kind of went off. I don't even know if it was glove or blocker, but it hit her head as well. And I think she thought it ricocheted. I think she thought she ricocheted, played it over her right shoulder. So she initially pushed right and looked and didn't see it. And then looked back left and saw Watts had it, but she was already twisted. And when she went to go push back is when Watts was like, thank you very much. And tapped it back in front off of her and it slid in. So. Yeah.
Epic cinema for us in women's hockey. I was so excited when I texted you.
And then her goal at her second goal where she picked the top corner. Seeing that highlight, I remember being like, oh, what a shot. She picked that. But then I saw the replay and I was like, first of all, there was a lot of people in front. I'm like, I can't even see Erin Frankel, but I see the whole right side of the net. Yeah. And the way the play happened, I think Frankel was expecting Watts to continue to walk to her left at the top of the circles. And instead she didn't. She just came down Broadway. And you saw Watts, you saw her look and she was like, she kind of gave it a, what? Is that as open as I think that is? And then she was just like, well, I'm shooting it. And then it was
exactly the way she told us the story of the goal in 2021. Exactly the way she told the story.
Oh, I'm talking about her second goal where at the tops of the circles where she picked the top corner. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, and nice to see Haley Skimmerer get one. I'm sure she wasn't even sure if it was hers. She thought Megan Carter tapped it in, but she didn't. Nice for her to get off the schneid and get one, especially leading up to the Worlds here.
You could tell she was happy and you could tell the girls on the bench were happy for her too.
So
they all came over to give her a pat. Really nice to see her get on the board.
Yeah. The difference in the third period for me was that specifically in Toronto's game, I felt like they were doing a really good job hunting pucks. And I think that's how they really turned things around for themselves. And they were relentless. What I mean by that is they were getting a shot, there was a rebound, and even if they weren't almost the first one to the puck, they made sure to get the puck. They were winning those kinds of battles that were incredibly important to win, getting the puck back, maintaining ozone possession, which is huge, and creating another chance off of it. So it was just it felt like the defenders and playing in the D zone for the forwards and also Erin Frankel, it was just oh my gosh, we're still here. Oh God, they got it again. Get it out. Those moments when you're sucking wind through a straw and you're breathing blood. That's me every Tuesday night with my Shirley girlies. I got to make a post, by the way. I made this awesome post with my Shirley girlies. I'll put it up for everybody. Thanks to Buckles for the help on that one. But Toronto in that third period was really, relentless and did a really good job hunting down pucks. I call it forechecking with your feet. When you're not reaching with your stick, you're getting there first, playing the body, stick on puck.
Nice.
They played
It's
it
a
well
great
that
term.
way. Yeah, forecheck with your feet. That's a
That
Mel
is a great term.
Davidson-ism. Mel would say that. Stop.
That's a very good one.
Sticks checking. Forecheck with your feet. First time she said it, I remember being like, kicking's illegal. Wisconsin.
Don't worry. She put it on her Instagram story. Kicking is illegal.
I'm still so sour, man, but whatever. I'm trying to be nice about it.
Dude, I was sitting on the plane going to Ottawa. I was like, oh, Tessa's got some Instagram stories up. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll check in on her when I land, make sure she's doing okay.
And everybody kept bringing it up to me there. I'm like, would everyone just shut up with it?
I know. I was like, guys, stop. We're trying to get through this together.
And it's so funny because after the game, when we were out for drinks, we saw some of the New York girls and Peyton Levis walked in with Abby Rock's jersey on. And I looked at her and I went, no. And I covered my eyes and she put her head down. She came over. She's like, I'm so sorry. It's a bet. I want to take it off so bad. I'm like, it's okay. I want you to take it off too. I know.
felt so bad for her.
I know.
Oh, I felt bad for both
but you know
guys.
what? All this stuff, like the bets and the stuff and everybody doing that. I love that these ladies love their alma mater that much and they're still into it and they're still watching it and they still care and they still support the ladies. Like I had a ton of, past players and current players and some of their boyfriends reach out to me on Instagram and be like, that's such crap. And they were all going off and everybody cares so much. And of course they do because these ladies pour their heart and soul into the game and like, and the beautiful thing about sports is like you can care that much about it and you can still have fun banter with it. You know what I mean? There's that lightheartedness, fun. Like Sims came on and I was like, I know you're going to give it to me. And she was like, no, I won't. Ohio played too good. I'm like, it's okay if you do. Like I can take it. I'm going to give it right back to you. Like you guys, So I think like it's good to have that. It's not like we're disrespecting the effort that these ladies put out there. It's more like we care, but like also it's easier for us because we weren't wearing the jersey and running on empty and overtime and having to experience. Well, we did experience that emotional roller coaster ride. Some of us still are, but it just
some of us are still trying to get off.
Yeah, but it just goes to show how much these ladies actually care and they're still into it, and which is good because they have to be because a lot of these players are coming into the league in the years coming. So a lot of them are kind of keeping an eye on some of their future opponents and maybe teammates.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else on this Boston-Toronto game? I'm trying to think. It was chippy game. Oh, what did you think of that Babstock, Megan Carter moment off the draw? Like it kind of Babstock back in the lineup. And I'm curious to see if we hear any supplemental discipline on that play because I'm
sure they'll be reviewing it because they do get sent a lot of things to review. Like Carter's a tough kid. If I'm going to go, I don't think I would pick Carter if that's me. Do you know what I mean? And vice versa.
Oh, she wasn't backing down from Babstock there.
No, I know. And which to me is equally impressive. They're both just really stand up for themselves and their team. Like you're not pushing me around kind of thing.
Hilarious moment with Keller and Renata Fast. They were kind of shoving one another and it was almost like they had this moment of clarity and we're like, oh God, stop. It's okay. It's fine. The game's going to be over anyway.
Yeah.
Like you saw them both have the moment of clarity. I think it was Megan Keller grabbed Renata and she was like, let's stop. Okay. Let's stop doing this.
But it was getting chippy before that because Daryl Watts was on a breakaway and whatever. And then she got shoved in the corner and
Jess DiGirolamo buried her.
Pushed her and then buried Gosling. Gosling was the one that got buried. So this game was getting chippy. But Watts has been playing fantastic lately, rightfully so. She's obviously put herself on our Instagram page with that behind the net goal. And Buckles is standing by to break it down. Break it down, Bucks.
One more thing I wanted to ask you about before we get to Buckles. Hannah Miller, I think, has 1 assist in her last 6 games. Not that I'm knocking her for being quiet or anything like that, but I wanted to get your perspective on like when a great player like Natalie Spooner comes back into the lineup, it's amazing for the team, obviously. Everyone in Toronto is healthy for the first time, but it does have residual effects. Is that what we're seeing from Hannah Miller, you think? Trying to find her spot in the lineup again? Not find her spot like she's fallen out of her spot, but find her role maybe?
Yeah, I think Troy still wants her to play the same way. But like you said, her minutes are looking probably a little bit different. Her line mates are probably looking a little different. She's not seeing as many good looks as she used to. But I thought she had a great game against Boston. I will say that. She had some really good chances. Frankel absolutely robbed her. Was it in the third or the second? Anyways. And I think everyone's like, oh, she's quiet. And it's like, there are great players that in the NHL that, have 30 plus goals a season and they go through 8-game droughts. And it's just the ebbs and flows of a season. And I think that if you can be a player like that just focuses on contributing and doing right things for your team, that inevitably the hockey gods will reward you with a good bounce. And sometimes when you're stuck in a rut like that, all you need is one to go off your ass and in. And then the floodgates open. Like, it doesn't need to be nice. It doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to go in. And then it's all of a sudden like the monkey's off your back, you're going. So yeah, I agree with you in a sense that the look of the game and your line mates changes. Sometimes your minutes change. The situations that you're in change. The players that you're playing against change. So yeah, there's an adjustment period that needs to take place. But like we said in our last episode, Toronto's off the LTIR. There you got their full roster. So now it's just time to see what that puzzle looks like, really piece it back together and have everyone be comfortable with, the shape of their piece and buy in 110% and roll with it.
Yeah, looks good so far. Okay, now, before I so rudely interrupted you, Buckles was wowed by Daryl Watts this week, the way we all were, and she's our star, and break it down with Buckles.
Hobson loses the puck. Now Daryl Watts keeps it herself. Watts shoots and scores! Daryl Watts puts Toronto on the board.
What is going on, everybody? I'm Emma Buckles, and this is Break It Down with Buckles. Today, we're talking about Daryl Watts. Daryl Watts is one of the biggest names in hockey, and she's just getting started, folks. She's one of the younger players, and let me tell you, she gets better and better every year. But what makes Daryl so good? Let's get into it. She is a shifty and very fast player, which makes her an absolute nightmare for every defender. She goes lateral a lot. She'll change up her foot speed, making it extremely hard to maintain a very good gap, and allows her to create time and space for herself to make an incredible play or to get a shot off. She will hold on to the puck until she finds an open lane for a shot. And with this patience, she also baits defenders in and opens up lanes for her teammates, giving them grade A chances that you see they capitalize on. Daryl has such good on-ice vision and takes advantage of defensive collapses all the time. And of course, we gotta talk about Daryl Watts' shot in hands. Not only is her shot hard and accurate, but the way that she's able to change the angle of the puck is what makes it so lethal. Daryl pulls or pushes the puck out when she makes her quick release shot, making it difficult for the goaltender to track where the puck is coming at. And these small increments make the biggest differences during games. And we've seen multiple times highlight reel goals with this pull and push shot that she has in changing the angle. Also, Daryl wires the puck low off the flank and creates grade A rebounds for her teammates. And the Scepters have capitalized on this multiple times so far this season. This is something that young players should look into, looking at a low angle shot that's hard and hits the goaltender's far pad and pops right into the slot, creates for some of the best chances. Daryl Watts is a force to be reckoned with. Catch this live for yourself this Sunday when they take on the Frost.
Let's keep Buckles with us after she just broke down Daryl Watts' play. Hi, Buckles. How are you?
Hey, guys. How are we doing?
We're great.
Good.
We're
Long
great.
time no see.
We were
long time no see.
In a 2-game situation last night, guys. So we had Buckles watch Montreal and Minnesota very closely. Congratulations to the Montreal Victoire. First team to clinch the PWHL playoffs this season. Always nice to be the first team with that little X beside your name on the PWHL homepage. Buckles, I don't know where you want to start with this one. Poulin, Stacy, who's your top liner? Chuli was great.
Yeah, I mean, the leadership group for the Montreal team really showed up. It was a game that you noticed that both teams had a sense of urgency with the Victoire, on a little bit of a losing skid and wanting to turn that around before the break and finally get that one win to clinch and not have that hanging over their heads. And with the Frost knowing that they're holding on to that last spot. And so it was a little bit back and forth, but ultimately the Montreal team, the leaders showed up. 4-point night for Laura Stacey, contributing on every single goal they had with 2 goals and 2 assists, and MPP doing MPP things and scoring when they need it. So ultimately, everything worked out in the Montreal's favor, and Minnesota, they had their moments, but ultimately they're in a little bit of a scoring drought right now. Ever since their March 7th game against the Charge when they got 5 goals, They've only been stuck at 1-2, and their offense really needs to be fired up again. And I have no doubt that they will be.
Yeah, dude, seeing Poulin blow by Lee Steckline like that kind of blew my mind. Like, I was like, what?
You
Those are
texted me.
probably two of the best, those might be the two best players at those positions in the world. And sometimes Pooh just has to turn the flex on. Hey, she's like, by the way, I'm still the best, and I could do this.
The thing with Pooh, I think, Bucks, you can even add on to this if you want, is and what makes great players hard to play against is the ability to not change the speed of their feet and kick it into the extra gear. So as
How
a
does that
defender, it's
happen?
really
Is it
hard to read.
power?
Jana Hefford, Jane Hefford was the master at it. Like,
It's
there
crazy.
was no one better at that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely incredible. And just the power that she takes to the net too. She's fast, but you're not going to get on those train tracks and not get run over. So obviously two big players, Lee and MPP, but ultimately MPP won that race.
Yeah, and that's I've talked to Ken Clee about it. When they play one another, like, that's the matchup Clee's looking for. Obviously, you want Steckline on Poulin all night. So cool to see Pooh turn on the Jets like that. That is like one of my favorite things to see. It speaks to the question we were talking about on Tuesday. We need a PWHL skills comp. We need it.
Yeah.
It needs.
Pooh had a
it
big
needs
night too. She had a 3-point night too, right? So like
Yep.
Buck said, they're big players showing up. But as we've seen in the playoffs, it can't just all be the big players. So who would you like to see on Montreal Bucks really start to step up and produce?
I mean, there's a lot of the secondary players that are doing little things that you don't notice. Like, you see like KO, Kristen O'Neill, like, cleaning up that first goal for Stacy and putting it net front. Jen Gardner, I mean, she's so fun to watch, and I have a feeling that she's really going to kick it off and be a huge player for their off season here. But those are two players that come to mind, and Erin Ambrose, she's bound to pot one soon. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Friend of the show, Erin Ambrose.
Friend of the show. Elaine Chuli was awesome on Wednesday night too. A couple pure robbery saves. I forget who the one was on, but
Cava.
Absolute
It was against Cava.
beauty. Oh, it was against Michaela Cava. And it was her birthday this week too. Like, we're birthday week buddies. I shouldn't have named her like that, but wow, what a save by Elaine Chuli. Great for the Montreal Victoire. Well,
Cava was even looking back like,
Renee's out. Yeah, she was
you
like,
gotta
really?
you kidding me?
There was that pan in, and
Jeez.
she was just like shaking her head, just like, come on, give me something, toss me a bone.
Yeah. I love that so much. Okay, so Montreal clinches the playoffs. Big night for their leadership group. Chuli steps up big, and it pushes them further into first place. Wednesday night was a big Yahtzee situation for the standings. It could have been, at least, but instead Montreal holds on to first. They gain a little bit of ground. Toronto gains ground on Boston for second place. Minnesota's lost 4 in a row all of a sudden. This is kind of feeling like last year vibes, isn't it? Like, you can never be scared for Minnesota because we've seen the way that they can turn it on in the playoffs. But at the same time, they don't really want to be limping into the postseason, do they?
No chance. I like that the Scepters are really doing a good job separating themselves from Boston, like you said, Julia, in third place. I felt like there was a moment, and I don't even know why I felt like this, where I was like, oh, teams are going to start to walk away with it. And then you look at the standings and you're like, okay, the Sirens have 30. The Charge have 33 points, which is what, one win apart? Then Minnesota's got 35, which is what, an overtime or shootout win apart? Like, what? The Fleet only have 5 points on Minnesota. So it's like literally every team needs to just be on every game. Like, this is playoff hockey, pre-playoff hockey, which I love. Leading into the Worlds, like, sign me up.
Yeah, every game means so much right now for every single team. Like, just like you said, Tessa, Minnesota's just 2 points ahead of Ottawa. Ottawa has a game in hand on Minnesota, though. New York's only 3 behind Minnesota. Minnesota has a game in hand on both those teams, though. So
it's coming down
crazy.
to the wire, you guys. Excited to see what happens.
What did that feel like last year, Buckles, when you knew it was coming down to the wire? Like, it feels like it's going to be the same thing this season.
Well, this is a
Why
tough
are you
question to
laughing?
ask. This is, because we were only 1 win away, and I think it was 4 games that we had to do it. I mean, it gets in your head a little bit. You hold onto your stick a little bit tighter, and so For Montreal, that's going to be huge just to get that off their plate. But I mean, it's so hard. You just got to play your game and trust that whatever you've been working on and the systems that you've been doing, everyone's playing their role. And I mean, it's definitely a crunch time for those players that are meant to be scoring those goals. Like I was saying in Minnesota, you need more Zumwinkle, Heisey, Kava goals. And so those players are going to be feeling the heat a little bit, but hey, diamonds are made under pressure. So let's see.
Yeah, that's a good point. There was a great moment with who scored? Kelly Panic got on the board and Zumwinkle made a great play to her. Yeah, that was like 21
games. It was like 21 games since her last goal or something, or like 14 games, something. And so that's got to feel good to get that monkey off your back.
Yeah. Can I just say, I've never seen Kelly Panic have a bad hockey game.
That's so true. That's
she
so
knows
true.
her
She's
role
never going to be a nuisance out there.
She doesn't hurt your team. She is like,
never.
I don't even want to call her underrated because I got her rated pretty high, but like you want her on your team as a coach, especially because you look down the bench in any situation in any game and you're like, I'm cool to put Panic out there. You always got one. You know what I mean?
100%.
And just
she's that kind of
her ability. I was going to say that her ability to win faceoffs and just get possession right away. I mean, she's an absolute beast at the dot. Yeah. So that's good to have.
Okay, Buckles, I'm sorry I brought that up from last year. Now you have to marinate on those thoughts for the afternoon. But I heard the party on the bus home was really good. I heard the party on the bus home was awesome.
Hear.
Yeah, I'm going to go play Marvin's Room and have myself an afternoon now. But
put you in your feels. You're a Marvin's Room girl. No, you wouldn't even listen to Tay-Tay? That's terrible. You're such a Toronto man. Get out of here, Buckles. You're leaving.
Okay. Bye, guys. Get lost.
Bye, Buckies. Okay. Thank you very much, Buckles. Very excited for the interview this week. I have not heard it yet, but I'm extremely excited because it features two of my favorite people, Cheryl Pounder and Tessa Bonham. You talk about this off the top. You told me already, but when we were telling people in Ottawa this past weekend, you guys kind of might have noticed that our travel stories have decreased significantly since the beginning of the season. That is not because we've gotten more organized. It's because we've decided to just stop traveling together in general. Tessa now leaves from Pearson and I leave from Billy Bishop downtown, and we meet at our required destination. Usually we stagger our flights about half an hour apart and we meet where we're going, because you know what? We can't be trusted to go to the hotel. We can't, because I think that you and I, you know what I'm getting it down to, Tessa? We both become passengers when we're with one another.
No, not one of us is a travel leader.
No, we're not. We both expect the other one to step up.
Yeah.
I'm a leader when I go with Liam. Like, I'm the travel leader when I go with him. So I don't know what comes over me. I should step up more in those situations. But I'm like, oh, I'll just text Tessa. When are you going? And then you'll be like, I'm going 45 minutes before. And I'm like, well, I'll go 40 minutes before that.
Yeah, I'm a laid back traveler. I'm a last minute traveler. But what happens is like we get talking, we get distracted, we get excited about things. We want to have a drink together.
Sodas. Yeah.
And we don't have time to do that when you're a laid back traveler. Laid back travelers show up, they go through security, they walk on the plane. That's what you do. Like, I don't need to spend time at an airport. I got other things to do with my time. Anyways, so what we narrowed it down to was we can't have the president and the vice president traveling together. That's the rule.
It's a security risk, guys. And this is actually a good example of why we don't do this. Because honestly, like, even though I missed this Cheryl Pounder interview as a result of my flight being delayed, we both would have missed it if we were on the same flight. So at least you were available to talk to Poundy. So really our whole thing still kind of worked. Anyways, Cheryl Pounder is, in my opinion, one of the best analysts in hockey right now. It's been such a treat to see her rise to media stardom. I didn't get to enjoy her as a player as much. Like, she was a touch before my time of enjoyment, but like, I've gotten to go back and watch old Poundy clips, and man, I don't know if she's appreciated enough for how great she was in her time, and also how young she was. Like, the stat is coming up now because of Chloe Primerano making the Canadian women's national team, but to this point, Cheryl had been the only teenage defender to make that roster. So a lady before her time, and just one of the best people to have wine with, and one of the best people to go to the casino with. And if I ever needed like to bury a body, I'd probably put Cheryl on the list. Like, Cheryl Pounder is one of the greatest people in general and one of the great people in hockey. And here she is. We've had her on Jocks and Jills before as an analyst, and we're of course going to have her back on as an analyst leading up to playoffs and maybe during Worlds when she's over in Czechia calling those games. But we needed to hear her full story on Jocks and Jills. So here it is.
All right, without further ado, Julia, of course, ran into some travel problems because it wouldn't be a Jocks and Jills episode or any type of travel that we have where things run smoothly. We're just not allowed to do that. We tried traveling separate, and clearly the travel universe just doesn't want things to be. So I get to hang out with an old teammate of mine, one of our favorites. You've heard her voice plenty across all female games, even on the NHL side as well. Cheryl Pounder joins the Jocks and Jills podcast. Finally, Pounds. My goodness. We've had you on. We've had you on as an analyst, but we've never got to sit down. We wanted to do this one so bad for so many years. Like, how many times are we sipping on a glass of wine talking about having you on to talk about your career?
You know what? Anytime you say have a glass of wine, you know that I'm going to be convinced to be on. So that's where it starts, Tess. And it hasn't changed since when we played, has it? Except maybe our tolerance, higher or lower. I'm not sure.
I'd say we got I'm going to say a little bit lower for myself because I feel like I was in like peak training grounds at Ohio State and a few years after, but then it's just been completely downhill after that. Not sure about you. It's more of a little dibble. That's all we need now, right?
Oh, no. I bought a trailer. My tolerance went way way up. Are you kidding me? And
I do know your trailer days. Those are good days. I've called you from there before. It seems like a ton of fun.
So, and I'm not quite in the shape that you are in. So I've been sitting at my kitchen table or my office or on a chair way too long. So the dimples are coming through as I drink more wine, but I am going to start. You know what? Every Monday I start.
Me too.
But this time I'm starting for real.
Yeah, I'll with you. I'll make that pact with you right now, Poundy. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm in shape. I am a shape, but I don't think it's in shape. But
oh no, you're in shape. Come on, girl.
Everybody, you heard it here first. Both Cheryl Pounder and I, we're going to keep each other honest. We're going to text each other, and every time we work out, so we're going to hold each other accountable, right, Pounds?
Yeah, I'm not going to start for a few days.
Okay, in a couple days we will start.
In a couple days. That's right. In a couple days. Does it count if I get 10,000 steps?
Yes, absolutely. That's a lot of steps. So you can get that in. It's got to be like a salt. You got to get a walk somewhere in those 10,000 steps, though. And it's not just to the fridge and back.
You're going to hold me accountable, Tess. I'm on it.
All right. Oh, you know how we start this podcast. I know you listen from time to time, and we always start where you started, where Cheryl Pounder born in Montreal, by the way. Are you a Habs fan?
You know what? I'm all hockey fans, but my family is split. My family is split because my grandpa was GM of the Montreal Junior Canadiens. All the kids in my family were born in Montreal. So my father was a huge Habs fan. And my brother is a huge Habs fan, my oldest brother, because he would always go to the Forum to watch. And so I married a Maple Leaf fan. So, Sunday night dinners were really interesting. But I kind of wavered because I was an Edmonton Oiler fan growing up, right? So I was a huge Mark Messier fan. Number 11.
Hard not to like that guy. You've met him personally, I'm sure, at all the events.
I've only met him once, but just sort of on a hi, I'm Cheryl, get to know you basis. And that was kind of it. So no personal connection there. Just always loved the way he played.
Oh man, me too. And he's a great guy. I'm sure when you met him, you're just like, what a good dude. Like I'd love to have a couple beers with that guy. But you grew up in Mississauga. You claim that as your hometown, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, your grandpa was the GM of the Montreal Junior Canadiens. Your grandmother was a pretty prominent softball player too. So the athletic gene pool was there for you, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, Tess. So my grandma, I always say she was kind of my person. And what I mean by that is I kind of knew her story growing up. And she was a ball player in the 1940s, and she had a contract for Wrigley Field, if anyone's ever seen the movie A League of Her Own. And in the 1940s—
Tell me she's one of those ladies.
She's one of those. She should have been one of those ladies. Yeah. So I have all these pictures, with her wearing silk and satin shorts and, with her baseball, and she's pitching. And it's interesting though, she said no to that contract, and the contract was pretty big for back in the day. And because at that time, she didn't think she could leave her home, her family, those kind of things for a sport. And so how things have changed. But when I was around 8 years old, I turned to her watching the Olympic Winter Games and said, I'm going to be there one day. And she was kind of the one that spurred me to say, believe in yourself. You'll never know unless you try. So that was those kind of words resonated with me over the course of my career. As you know, you go through these wavers and wafts of believing in yourself and then being down. And so it was always something that I leaned to with my grandma, was those words when I was 8 years old, and kind of trying to reflect on them. Not then, I didn't really know what it was, but over the course of my career, as I got older, kind of being like, yeah, that's, those words were poignant for me. And started playing at a young age. And my mom was my coach. So there you go.
That's so cool. Did your grandmother ever talk about how much she regretted not accepting that contract? Or was it always just like, that was an opportunity and you didn't talk about it anymore?
No, it was just kind of sports. When she spoke about it, she was a high-level basketball player. She was tall. She was really tall. And for that time, you didn't see women that were 5'10", 5'11". And so she was a tall lady. She was strong. She was athletic. And she never really talked about it. She had this competitive edge to her. I mean, we would play cards when I was 7 or 8. And we'd play for 10 cents a hand, and she would not let me win. Like, it was like I owed her a couple bucks by the time she went back to Montreal. And, because she was just competitive. But at that time, I don't think it ever really, really, truly resonated with her that she could do it. She loved sport. But she never talked about the what if. But when I had my dream and my dream was born, and she did come to my first world championship, I remember just those words kind of lingering. And then having my mom coach me, her daughter, who never ever played the sport, but had a brilliant mind for the game, and just said, you know what, I'm going to coach you because I have a mind. I've been hanging out at the Forum. I've watched some of the greats coach and listened to them. So I'm going to coach you. But she didn't have the skill set to execute the skills. So
that's
she went out. So she went out, and what'd she do, Tess? She went and got coaches. And it happened to be Scott Lawton's father, Craig Lawton, now at the Toronto Maple Leafs, was my mom's assistant. And would execute the skills. And so it was sort of recognizing where her skill set was versus what she needed, and then combining it and coaching for a number of years before, I would go off and go to the Toronto Arrows.
So like there were girls playing when you were younger, but
Thanks, Tess. I'm not that much older than you. I'm just kidding.
but like it was, I don't want to say like few and far between, but it wasn't really as big as it is now. So when was the first time you said to your parents, like, I like hockey, I want to play? And were they like, yes, absolutely? I'm going to assume yes, just based on the hockey background that they all grew up in.
And my brothers played, right? So my oldest brother played, and my younger brother was playing, not before me, but my oldest brother was playing. So we would go to the rinks, and my sister and I both started in ringette. So very common for my age group, years of age. And so it was a big, big sport in and around that time. And typically you were a really good skater when you came out of it, but you couldn't shoot the puck, which was pretty much status quo for me.
Were you good at ringette?
I started in ringette, yeah. So 2 years in ringette.
Were you like a baller at ringette?
Yeah, like I could skate, girl. Like, it's right up my alley.
Right.
And then it was like, wait a second, I want more. Like I wanted to be part of the sport that my brother was a part of, that I was watching. Right. And so I went and I asked, and my parents were like, sure. And I'd made a boys hockey team in the area, but we had the Mississauga Girls Hockey League.
Nice. So your mom coached on the girls' side or the boys' side?
The girls' side. So I never actually played. I actually got chased into a dressing room by a very angry parent when their son got cut for me. So my parents were like, know what? It was interesting. Yeah. Back in the day, it was interesting. And I didn't have too many encounters like that. But my parents decided, listen, we have a real strong female organization or girls organization in Mississauga, Hurricane Hazel, Mayor Hazel McCallion was all on board with hockey. So we had a pretty robust league here. So that's where I went. And I usually played up a division, but played it until I moved on to the Toronto Arrows. So I am sort of a product of the women's game right from the start. Right through to the end. And so you don't hear about that a lot of the time, but my demographics, the location was certainly made it available for me.
So you were a ringette player. Your grandmother was an awesome athlete all around. When you were in high school at St. Martin Secondary School, were you also dipping into all the other sports too? What else were you playing?
Oh, I was dipping. I loved baseball. I was a softball player, so I played softball right till I was 17. I'm a big proponent of multi-sport. My girls still play multi-sport. Everyone's like, oh, they've got to choose. I'm like, no, they don't. They enjoy what they enjoy. They love it. Changes the muscle groups, gets them a break. And so I've always played multiple sports. So I played ball at a high level and actually played against Becky Keller. So interestingly enough. And then when I had to make a choice when I went to school, I did specialize in that. Then it became hockey. But I played volleyball. We'd go to DPWA's ASA, played basketball. I wasn't great at basketball, but played it anyways. Badminton.
Nice.
Whatever I could get my hands on, I played when I was in high school and in elementary. Just loved all sports, right? And wanted to be out and about playing. And listen, we didn't have the gaming like we have today. So I was all on board with getting engaged and playing anything I could.
Anything to get out of class, hey?
Anything. Well, a day off school, sign me up.
Yeah. When did because you mentioned, when I made my first worlds that your grandmother got to be there, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But you made it as a teen. You were incredibly young when you made that team. So when, I guess, were you scouted, kind of recruited, or how did that process happen back then? Because I know tryouts were run differently for the Olympic teams and stuff. So one, how were you scouted or brought into that program? And two, as a teen, I mean, my goodness, weren't you nervous?
Crap in my pants. Yeah. You could say that. So my situation was a little bit unique. So I was, like many of us, I was a forward. And when I went to play with the Toronto Arrows, Ken Dufton at the time said, I think you're a defender. So wanted to put me back on D. Didn't love the idea, but said, you know what? Yeah, do I have a choice here? And of course, do I have a choice? And if the answer is no, then I'll sort of buy into it and what have you. So I started playing D with the senior team with the Arrows. So I was on the teams with the likes of Angela James. I was 16. I was 16-ish, 16 years old. And I think I was 16 turning 17 anyway. I went to the first ever national championships in the women's game. So in Montreal. And I was a defender at the time, and we won. And we came home, and I swear to you, Tess, I'm showing my medals to my best friend. I'm over at her house, and the phone rings, and it's my mom. I always call my mom Spicy D, Diane. And she calls and she says, Cheryl, you got to come home. And I'm like, Mom, what the hell? So she calls me, and I come home, and there's a phone number on our kitchen table, and it says Mr. Leslott. And I'm like, who the hell's this? And she says, well, it's the coach of Team Canada. He's looking for you. And I was like, what? So I take the phone number and I hand it to my mom. I'm like, Mommy, you call, right? And she's like, I'm not calling. You muster up some confidence. He's looking for you. Call the man. So I remember dialing his number, and he gets on the other side, and he's like, I happened to watch you play at the championship this past week, and I love the way you play D. And I was kind of like, what?
It was your first year playing D?
Yeah. Like I played a few shifts here and there over my minor hockey career. Like anyone, you're one of the best ones on your team. You get thrown into the role that you need to be in. But
You're a good skater?
Yeah, I was a good skater, which is typically why they put you back, right? So he says, we've had an injury. We just found out about it. Our final selection camp for Team Canada is next week. Would you like to come?
Oh
and
my
I'm
gosh.
Like,
a week?
I dropped the phone. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's kind of how it started. And when I walked in, I didn't know anyone, the vulnerability associated with that and the angst of walking into a room, all these players there. Wick was there at the time. And, everyone's like, Haley Wickenheiser, like, who the hell is Cheryl Pounder, right? So, I didn't know anyone. I didn't, there was this just real angst around it. And I met with Mr. Lawton, and I remember him saying to me, there's 35 players here, you're 35, learn and grow from the opportunity you're being given. And I left, and I was kind of angry because, we're competitive, we're internally competitive. And I wasn't playing well because I didn't really know what he wanted. I just, trying to be someone I wasn't. And then I was set to go first in a line. And I remember I was just gonna go fast because, as you know, I did many things fast, not always right. And all of a sudden someone came up behind me and said, Pounder, that's your name, right? And I'm like, yeah, and she's like, do you know what you're doing? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm going first. And she said, no, you're not. You're going to watch me and you're going to do it right. And I remember going, okay, all right.
Who was it?
And it was Don McGuire. And I went and did it right. And all of a sudden my confidence just kind of went up. And she started talking to me, and this one started talking to me, and I started playing better. And then I got a little bit better. And then I was like, wow, I'm playing pretty good. And then you know what that does for you. And then I'm getting to know people. Then I got a nickname at camp. And I knew I wasn't going to make the team, but now at least I was proud of my performance. And you know what that's like. But I had to meet Mr. Lawton. And I remember meeting him, and I knew my fate was, because he told me I was 35 of 35. And I remember just saying, thank you for the opportunity. And I hope I can make your team next time. And he just said, well, there won't be a next time. You just made Team Canada.
That's huge. Did you cry? You cried.
Oh,
You're a crier.
Of course I cried. Bawled my eyes out for about hours. And but I always go back to that now because I really think the impact of Dawn and I've never actually gone back to her and said thank you, Founder, and been like, you changed the course of my career by one action. And so I always kind of come back to that. And, as we get older and try and, not be threatened by others, but care and give. I always remember that story, how, how she had such an impact and probably doesn't even know it.
That's cool. Do you remember what your nickname was? Or was it just Poundy?
Well, I was Bam Bam Pounder at the time. And Haley was High Chair Haley.
Yeah, because she was
so young. Between that, I grew into my Quadzilla.
People need to understand.
Yeah, Quadzilla.
Holy. The quads on Poundy when she played. I don't know if you have pictures, but I'll relate it to like Kurt Harnett, the cyclist, when he was cycling for Team Canada. Pounder was the female version, just a hockey player. Like your quads were like
hung over my kneecaps, right?
It was insane, man. It was like goals. Like going in as a young kid in 2005, I was like, I want that. Like, how did you get that kind of thing? And it's hilarious.
At a squat rack though, and my butt blew up. So it just was what it was. But yeah, the power that goes with that. And that's what I say to young women now when they talk. I said, well, those legs skated me to 2 Olympic gold medals. So you know what?
There you go.
Strength, there's power in strength, right? So
you want
at the time, that. When I was young, I was probably a little more conscious of it. But as I got older, I appreciated the fact that I could go toe to toe with anyone and skate with them. Yep. So yeah.
The worst part about it.
The net.
Yeah, that was a Poundy special.
It was.
The worst part about having quads like that, or when we're training and we're at our peak and your quads are massive, was just truly finding jeans that fit.
No, they did. They never fit. The waist would be like this, and then they'd be
so big,
tight.
We didn't need a belt to keep our pants up. Our quads were doing the job.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. What do you remember most, though, about that 94 Worlds outside of, you said your grandmother got to watch it?
I mean, obviously having my family there, but I would say not just winning. Winning obviously was outstanding, but it was also really hard for me. And because I didn't play a lot and I was so used to playing, I got there and then I didn't really feel like I contributed. And I remember in the final game, and this is pretty raw for me to say, but I'm old enough now that I can appreciate where I was. I don't know if I've even told anyone this, but in the final game, I never played a shift. And it was really hard to watch the whole game and never be called on. And I remember, you're supposed to have this ecstatic feeling about winning. And I was truly happy that we won a gold medal. And I know I was part of it, but didn't have that feeling of contribution. And I was young. And so I remember going to the showers and just trying to mask my disappointment, because I also knew how happy everyone was. And I went to the showers, and it's funny, I left and right away, Angela James knew I was off a bit. And she didn't say anything. She didn't say anything in terms of keep your head up. It was more, all she came to me, she put her arm around me and she said, I've been around a while. She said, Rome wasn't built in a day, kid. And And she just looked at me and she goes, got a gold medal today, and something like that. And I was like, yep. And that, I remember that too, right? Just that whole idea of someone taking you under their wing, just in the moment, just a little bit of
The right time.
and it wasn't like it was just like and you can't help how you feel and you're trying your best to. And so I remember that.
Well, you were young, 2 pounds, like to be able to have the maturity to be able to digest that situation. Like the coach brought you on to really give you experience because he saw potential in you. And he was like, I like that player and they're going to be great. Maybe not at this Worlds, but it's good to go to your first Worlds and just get your feet wet. And I feel like that's what they did for you, right?
Well, and I also think too, though, like when you're young, one of the things that you have a hard time developing is consistency, right? So you actually don't know where your game is and you're not familiar with your strengths. So you play to, what you think you should do, or you play, in reading the game and being smart enough to understand what's coming at you and knowing, to look and learn and see. And so I didn't have those tools. And so I was inconsistent, I think. And so in a final game, you want consistency. You want to know what you've got. And so I understand now, and I understood then, but it was just hard, right? And so being in that seat and that young, I think they also learned from me to a degree, which is why I think it's so impressive when someone like Chloe Primerano can come in
I was going to ask you
in a rivalry series and, be a shooter in a shootout and take that on. I do think they learned from me though. And after me, they became a U18 and there became a development team so that there was a road to get there. But I do think that they did to some degree learn from me and, just sort of with that development piece and what that could look like in the future.
Totally. After making that Worlds, you go to Wilfrid Laurier for 4 years. How much fun was your time there? What'd you take, by the way? Did you get a degree there?
Remember.
You did, hey?
Just kidding. I think I
did.
I think I got the papers. I got my honors kin degree.
Nice.
At Laurier. I played hockey there. And I had a blast. And a lot of my friends, that was the first time, right when I was going to school was around the time where everyone else was leaving as well. So Canadians were just really starting to go to the US.
I was going to ask, was that an option for you?
Yeah. So I was talking to some schools in the States at the time, but I had made the national team already. And so at that time, right, I made it when I was 17. So by the time I was going to university, I already had, for every year that you were on the national team, you had a year of carding, which included a year of tuition. So
nice.
I was starting school, 1, with my tuition paid for in that year. I was carded, but 2, at the time, it was still sort of the pathway to, was still kind of in Canada playing, for the Toronto Arrows. So I actually played for the Toronto Arrows and Laurier at the same time.
Yeah, you were double dipping,
like crazy, absolute craziness. But I felt like that was the best pathway because I was already on the national team. And so I played in Canada. I loved it. I had a great experience, and and others who went had a great experience. So it's just knowing what's good for you. I think it would have had a good time anywhere I went, just being out, being on your own, playing on a team, living. But I really had a great time and loved the experience. And hard to believe I was just there yesterday on a recruiting trip with my daughter. So
no way, were you?
That's crazy. Yeah. She just,
for those who don't know,
and have a look at the university, and I was just kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
for those who don't know, Cheryl has 2 very athletically gifted daughters, both in lacrosse and hockey. Really, any sport they want to touch. I feel like those kids are. They busy. Got the right
busy household,
right DNA. I'd say. Also, carding for everybody listening is when you're paid a stipend to help alleviate costs of training. So when Poundy said she was carded, that's what she means. But you didn't make, it was like what, 4 or 5 years until you made your next Worlds after 94?
Yeah. So thanks for the reminder, Tess. No, I'm just kidding. I'm
kidding.
I'm kidding. It's not raw anymore. No, it's, so I made it when I was young. So I made it when I was 17. And then World Championships kind of fell in off years. So made it when I was 17. And then I got cut. Like I'd gone to, they have like 4 nations and stuff like that. But then I got cut in 90, sort of that 96 to 98 window. And yeah, that was a devastating time for me, for sure. I think that everyone sort of has a point in time where they're kind of like, this is my hole. So certainly when I was cut from the Olympic team and the Olympic roster, not centralizing, that was probably, it was a definitive moment because one, I'd been there. What I would say to you now, not then, because I blamed everyone else that I didn't make it, was like I started to kind of participate, you know what I mean? Like I was there, I'd made it, and rather sort of engaging and trying to continually grow. I think I was just there. That was one thing. And then getting cut, I just had to ask the questions of whether I wanted to get back, which was really, really difficult to do. So finding a way back was the difficult part. I had some great teammates, friends, my family that kind of helped me get back up. But kind of coming up with a plan as to the why I didn't make it was probably the toughest, and taking the feedback and doing something with it. Because as we know, whether we agree with it or not, and some of the things I didn't necessarily agree with, didn't matter, right? Like if I didn't do something about it, I wasn't going to stand a chance at getting back on. So I kind of had to answer the questions as to whether I was willing to do that. And I was, and I think it changed me as a player to a degree. Like I think I became a very safe player after I got cut. So I think
you're literally, your scouting description would be steady Eddie. Like you knew what you're getting from Pounds every time she was out there. Shut down D, not going to get you in trouble. Like is that what you embraced?
Yes, I would say I embraced that, but then I was so afraid. I think for anyone out there listening, like fear is stagnating, right? So I think the fear of that failure, right? It's like anything, like a night before a final, or the fear of the failure is that what actually prevents you from playing your absolute best, because this is fear. But, sometimes when you're fearless, it can take you to the other side. So I think I was so afraid of getting cut again that I just wanted always to just never get beat. And in doing that, I think it stymied my play a little bit, and it sort of put me into one bucket, which I think I was possibly, I had more. But then once I embraced that role and knew my role, I was like, yep, I'm good with it. And that's, that is what I'm more suited to, and. So, and love that role, right? Love the fact that, you're put out there against top competition to shut them down and just make a good pass, even if it's off the glass, and just, be that steady player. And so didn't really, serve sort of that possession-oriented game, but, made sure that the puck wasn't in your net.
And you did a hell of a job of it, bud. The off the glass just had me laughing because Poundy, off the glass, Poundy, you're in trouble off the glass and out. It was like,
I still say it when I'm in the booth, Tess. Like I still say it. Okay, I have a question for all you out there watching. Okay, I want to say it. So
Poundy used to practice off the glass and out, by the way, at the end of every practice. Go on.
You should. Everyone should, because I'm telling you right now, how often, okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
A D comes behind the net. They skate themselves to the corner, but they have full possession. Okay, picturing it in your head here. Your forwards now are all already on their arc. Their toes are almost up ice. They're flying. You put it off the glass, guess what? You're
50-50,
going to...
They're going to go get it.
You're going to go. Instead, you turn back. Forecheck. Comes straight to you, squeezed, or by the time your forwards have turned, their toes are facing you now. And so
they're
now
going the wrong way.
You've stopped the flow and the speed of the game. Now, I'm not saying that, it's off the glass all the time, but I do think that sometimes off the glass is actually for possession or just to back up the heat. So anyway, I'm still living with it as a play in the game, that it can be a very good play.
That's fair. I won't argue with you. I mean, look at, you were at what, 7 worlds, won 6 golds. Is that right?
Yes. You're pretty good, Tess. You're pretty good.
Yeah, I got my
girl.
stats, I think. I've known you for a while, so I better not screw that up. But obviously, so getting cut and left off those rosters and not getting a crack at the 98 Olympics, you said, you were pissed off at first, rightfully so. I've experienced that too. You're mad, you're angry, but then you let that serve as your fuel, your fire. To come back and make that 98 team. So after putting all that work in and then getting the nod on the 98 Worlds, how was your mentality going into that training camp or that tryout different than after the 94 Worlds? Like when you said you're just showing up doing your thing.
Yeah. Well, I think, I was 5 years older and wiser after that Olympics. I remember watching it and, having people that I was rooting for on the team and just watching it, wanting to be there, and having had done the work over the last few years, and then really making a conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm going to work on, I'm going to work on the things that I need to work on. So I, went out and sought out shooting, which was a weakness, and other things that would help me. So by the time I hit 99, I was playing really well with our club team, which at the time was the best on best. It was the best that we had to play, and was doing quite well. And there was just a confidence, a different confidence, even though I still had that, like, okay, I'm not getting beat, I'm not getting caught, I'm not, because obviously sort of what had happened getting cut, had translated into that. But I just felt a different confidence. The coach had changed, so I also felt like a freshness to it, where I was sort of a clean slate, and it would be my opportunity to seize or not. And so from 99, I made that team, and then I stayed on the team for the next, 8-9 years or whatever it was.
Yeah,
So
9 years.
so I think that was a turning point. And obviously after every Olympics, that there's change typically.
Yeah.
And because obviously there's a new wave, the quad is heavy. So now all of a sudden we knew there was going to be change. So there was also spots that did open up. And then I was able to jump into one of them.
Was 99 the first year you and Keller got to play together, or were you guys playing together on the 99 was the first year? So everyone
I'm
out
trying
there
to think
needs
when
to
she
know.
came to the Arrows. I forget. It's all a blur
It was
now.
the year before that, I think. I'm quite sure because she was there for 1 year with you.
And then she came after 98, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We call them the Bobsey twins, by the way. There's always a really good joke that's going on between Keller and Pounder, and you always want to know what it is because they're crying laughing. But when they try to tell you, they can't stop laughing hard enough to tell you what they're laughing about. So you never really get in on the joke. They are two of the funniest people in the entire world. You guys are long lost sisters, I'm quite sure.
Yeah,
like, was there an immediate best friend connection between you two the second you met?
It's just we get one another, right? And I get her humor, and she gets my, like, whatever my idiosyncrasies are. But yeah, you're right. Like when we start laughing and get giddy, like our husbands walk away because they find like we're the most annoying people in the whole world. But we think it's so funny, and it, like, it's not funny, but because it's funny to us, and it gets, the whole thing, like when it gets your funny
The
bone,
spiral.
like, that's what happens. It just doesn't stop. And so, yeah, we've had that relationship, and then being D partners on the national team for so long, just having our little quirks between us, just made it that much more fun. And the things that we would do off ice and get other people involved in, or what have you, just was a ton of fun. And as you know, the game isn't just played on the ice, right? It's about those relationships and the connections that you make. And so we talk all the time. We talk all the time today. We lived together through 2 Olympics, with when she had kids, when she didn't. So just kind of lived through the whole gamut with her. So it's been a blast.
I love that.
We're the Golden Girls, right? We're the Golden Girls. We both married older men. Yep.
Yeah.
Gonna live in a
You
bungalow
guys
in California one day.
You two will end up the real Golden Girls 100%. And I can't wait to visit because it's going to be just a hoot. The thing that I remember most about you two is like no one loved Tim Hortons more than you and Becky. Like it was always a Tim's run, grabbing a coffee, whatever. You guys always had a coffee in hand. Do you remember almost losing your life walking across the street to get a Tim Hortons?
Yeah, there was a bus that was coming by. I didn't see it.
How?
Yeah, we were joking around, and Timmy's, and I jumped, and we were on a mean drag. Kids don't do this at home. Look both ways with meaning. And I just jumped out, and I swear to you, between, like, if I do this by this little hair piece and I do that and it moves, like that's how close the car was to just wiping me out. Like if I didn't just do,
wasn't it a bus?
There was a bus, and I decided to dart across, but the bus, I didn't look, when you edge out, I just went.
Yeah.
And so they didn't see me, and I didn't see flash of my life. And so that was one of the Tim Hortons runs. The other Tim Hortons run was post-Olympics. We just won the gold medal. And I forget who got their car back first. I don't know why we were in the car together. And we decided to do the Tim Hortons, and we had no money. We did not have enough in our Interact. I remember she looked at me and she said, I can't put it on debit or whatever it was at the time. I said, why? She said, because they charge $1.25 for the thingy.
The fee.
I don't have the money in my account. And I was like, I don't have any cash. We were scrounging because at that time we didn't really make
flash your gold
anything.
medal?
We were just I didn't flash my, we flashed other things in the past to try. I'm just kidding. But here we're going, and I'm looking for my money. Nothing. We finally hand that, like basically we've rolled our change for the bank and hand them for our money for our coffees, and that's just kind of how we rolled, right? And so Timmy's was always a place. We always had a beer after a game or after a practice back in Calgary, So
yeah,
coffee or
friendship
beer.
stuff. It's funny that you say that you're like scrounging for stuff, because for people that don't know, Pounder is the most organized, disorganized person in the whole entire world. Just one of the examples was at the 2021 Worlds when we were all checking in and they're like, we need a credit card. And you're like, oh, and then you went to pull out your wallet, and out of your purse, we'll call it, you pull this wallet, and there was like game notes in there. There was like gum packs. There was 20,000 receipts, probably for tax purposes. And you were like, I can't find my credit card. I'm like, I'll put mine down. It's okay, Cheryl. You're good. You're like, I'll find it. I just need 5 minutes. The guy's like, does anyone else want to check in? We're like, no, we want to witness this firsthand. But like, even to go a little step further, like explain to people what kind of stuff you would wear under your hockey gear from time to time.
Well,
And like, how did your
had a bit of
fanciest pair of undies rust to the bottom of your hockey bag?
Well, yeah, I remember one year I opened up my bag in August, and I hadn't opened it all summer, and it was still wet. And I wasn't the best that way. And it is funny because I wore this one blue shirt underneath, on my uppers. But over the course of time, it had whittled away. It was like a baby blanket. It had whittled away to threads. And I didn't always wear a bra underneath my
You never
shirt.
did, Cheryl.
I know.
Didn't always. I've never known you.
I'm trying to paint a good picture of myself here,
girl. You were always free boobing it. It was like,
yeah.
Poundy, put them away, especially when you were pregnant. I remember, oh my gosh, go on. We'll tell that story in a minute.
So I just remember like holes all over it. And then someone said, but I couldn't. It was my lucky shirt. It was my lucky shirt, Tess. I had to wear it.
Fair.
I had to wear it. It was
totally
like
fair.
Wasting away by bits, but I wore it. But yeah, I wasn't the best with my bag. I'm fully aware of that. My stall was an absolute mess, scattered everywhere.
Disaster.
Disastrous. I know. I'm better now. I'm a bit better now. Yeah. I'm organized.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Are you?
Way back.
We might get you to pull your wallet out by the end of this program, so careful.
No, yeah, you'd find this. I should show you my receipt drawer.
Okay, I don't need to see that. That gives me
anxiety. I have
anxiety.
A receipt drawer now, though, at least.
That's good. They're all in one place.
They're all in one place, so I can find them at the end of the year when I need to do my taxes.
There you go. So you didn't make the 98 Olympics. You're a hot mess on the in-between, but you pull it together. You make 99. So 02, you got your sights set on 02, which is a big Olympic Games. It's in North America, Salt Lake City. What a wild ride that game was. Do you remember being told when you're going to make the team? Was it a teary moment as well? And like, what do you remember about that team specifically and that year or that win?
I remember still being sort of Keller and I lived together. So we were oblivious to a lot that was going on with all of the losses on the year. But I do remember when we made the team and they announced it, we had 3 workouts in the day. And this is a little fuzzy, so might be a little off, but we went to the workout in the morning. And I believe we had an off-ice workout in the afternoon, like just a weight room workout. And then we grabbed something to eat. And I think we were to come back for a third workout. And as we came back for the third workout, they'd intercepted the final cuts. So
Whoa.
You were training in the morning.
With everybody.
With everyone. And then it was something along those lines. Cause I remember there wasn't like this formal, it was almost like you're the Olympic team. And
Right.
we're kind of doing the math and we're at it, like who's missing? Cause you got locked out if you weren't there early enough to get ready. And we're kind of looking, going, this is it. And that's kind of how I remember being told and being like, holy, this is it. And so there's this feeling of like, you're so happy, like it's like, whoa, but it's emotional, but then you're overwhelmed. And then you always know in this situation, someone else's absolute devastation. So, and dynamics in the room change because people have been removed, right? So it was just, I find like, I understand why now when teams are chosen or there's injury or people leave the room while you go through this this natural process while you're figuring it out, right? But I remember, calling my husband, fiance at the time, and just in tears, having been through what I had been through 4 years earlier, and being extremely proud, very, very proud that I'd put the work in to try to get back. Because as we know, there's no guarantees. So I remember that just being something that I was pretty proud of, just, putting the work in to getting back and finding my way back there. But that year was hard. Athletically, it was probably one of the hardest of my life, in terms of the constant losses on the year. Becky and I, in our own little world, we would just go home and have a beer. And I might add that I think Becky Keller is much warmer now because of me. And what I mean by that, and she knows I say this,
Hugs.
so it's not like Keller's the warmest, coolest, awesomest person.
She's the best.
But like I'm to a fault, like a hugger, I'm like, hey, are you okay? And I remember I'd come in and, something had happened or, my fiance's at home and, you miss each other and I'd be like, Keller, like just, and she'd be like tapping me on the back, like, yeah, yeah. And I'd be like, just hug me, come on. So now it's always funny. Like she's great with it. Like she's always, telling her boys she loves them and hugging them. And I'm like, nah. But
you're
she
welcome.
gives me hugs when I see her now. And it's not just like a,
It's not the cold hug. It's like a warm hug.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
And she's not cold. Like she's a great warm person, but like that element of her versus like I'm the complete opposite. So we always found that funny. But yeah, we hung out in our little townhouse and when we left, we must have brought like 25 cases of beer out minimum. And people were just watching us like, are those the Olympians? And we'd be like,
yeah,
just one every day after work. That's it. But So I remember that year being hard. I remember it being probably one of the most fulfilling moments of my life when we won, just in terms of that final feeling when the buzzer went after we won, in terms of from my athletics. And
where were you on that dog pile?
God, where was I? I can't remember. You know what, Tess? Someone asked me what I remember the most, and I don't have any recollection of the game because I've never watched it again.
Yeah.
And
I haven't watched 2010.
And I don't remember.
I don't want to.
Me neither. It's perfect, right?
Yeah.
In your mind. And so I don't want to change it. Like in my mind, we all played a perfect game and we clearly didn't. I mean, we make mistakes, but we were so in the zone. People talk about that all the time. What is that? And I think I was in it and that, you can't really explain it. But I remember being in it till the last shift I was on the ice. And then I came out of my zone and shit my pants. And because you're
knew.
a minute away from winning. They pulled their goalie and you haven't won yet. And I came out of that bubble and that's the shift I remember. Crapping my pants, being like, just where's Granato? Where is she? Yeah. Where is she? Just where is she? Like my head's probably doing probably looked like The Exorcist. Like head wasn't just on a swivel. It was like
circulating.
I was just so like, my God, and I'm looking and so I came out of the bubble. But when people have asked me, what was it like when you rewatched it and you read it? I said, I haven't. I've never done it because it's perfect to me and I don't want to change it. No need to change it. No need to evaluate it, dissect it. It was perfect. And so that's how I'm
So
leaving
you had
there.
that massive win, first Olympic gold for Canada. How did '06 compare? You guys played Sweden in the final in Italy. Did it hold the same weight for you? It's your second gold. It's an Olympic gold medal. You had to work hard to get there. I don't think that year was easy either, but that's when we
No,
first met, actually, and I started plucking your eyebrows. But
I know. Salon, what was the name of the salon that you did my hair and eyebrows?
305, me and Augusta were roommates, Salon 305.
God, thank God for you guys. I had
We
the
were doing
golden
everyone's
arch
hair and
right
plucking your
between there.
eyebrows.
Connecty dot right in the middle of my eye. You gave me 2 eyes. Thank you for that.
2 eyebrows. You're welcome. I've seen you've kept well.
Well, that's Jenya. That's not me. Jenya's our makeup artist at TSN for all of you. She's
the
wonderful.
best.
Yeah, I would say '02 was the toughest in terms of just the losses and the learnings, but then
Yeah.
coming out on the other side, probably the best game final that I've ever played in. I think '06 was the best team I ever played on.
Yeah, hands down. That was a wicked team.
So, and I just think there were so many lessons from the '02 team that we took forward. And I think more maturity too, right? You have an issue
Yeah,
with
like
someone,
that.
talk to them.
Did you not feel like that team was like the most prepared in every aspect? Like
Yes.
I was a rook. I had no business being on that team. I tried, but like you in my first one, I kind of didn't really wasn't playing the right way. I was immature. But like that team, looking around, like I learned how to be a pro that year.
Yeah.
One,
And
it was like not even the aspect everyone trained and took care of their bodies and ate properly. It was like the conversations that we're even having in the locker room. Like
Yeah.
there were disagreements, but like
Yeah.
all that laundry was aired out. There was
Yeah.
no room for baggage. And it was
Yeah.
like, cool, this is what a winning team looks like. This is
Yeah.
how you win. I
and,
got it.
and that's the thing. Like there's a difference between, you don't all have to be best friends, right? Like you
Yep.
don't. And you can have your voice and you can have a tough conversation with someone and still be okay because you still respect each other because you actually had the conversation versus like do, right? And so I think that we learned a lot. We learned to become, in our own rights, probably individually better leaders, just people
Yeah.
that became better people to be able to communicate. And, if someone had a problem with you, it's okay to share that, because
Yeah.
it's better than festering and whatever. And you can still have respect. And I think that was what we learned. But then we had that. And then we had the skill to back it up and then the preparation to go with it. So I think you put all that together. And I think although we didn't face the US in the final, I still feel like we were the most prepared to be strong in that final, right? Like
Yeah.
we were ready for it. We had a great group. And I think all of us were better than we were before. I certainly was better 4 years later. And I look around the room and I feel like almost everyone was better that 4 years later and more confident. And I think a lot of the time, and I don't know, Tess, what you think, but a lot of the time you get your confidence. Sure, you get it from your playing time and your coach, but you also get it from the people around you.
Huge.
And so I feel like we were much better at that too. And it not like superficial, like great job. It was more like meaningful stuff. And that goes a long way in your confidence and how you perform. So I just feel like that really helped. And so that made it, whereas '02 was the first and probably the best final game, '06 was the best team I'd ever played on, I think,
Yeah.
collectively as a group. So it made both
Totally
very
fair.
different. And the likelihood that I wasn't going to go to another one was pretty high. So I think like in the words of Vicky Sanahara, the great Vicky Sanahara, was like, I'm not going to wish time away this year. And I think often we wish time away. We're shit, man, I can't wait until I get, done this, or I can't wait till I get here, or I can't wait. She said, I'm going to take it upon myself to not wish time away. And I felt like that was really, really valuable because, I get caught in that too. So not wishing time away and just being present. I think that was that year to a T.
Yeah. Your Team Canada career came to an end. Then you made a slow but steady transition into broadcasting, which is where you live full time now. Who helped you in those early years, and what kind of hurdles did you need to overcome?
Oh, geez, like you don't have another hour, right? So, as you know, Tess, as a broadcaster, there's so much learning that goes into it. I don't think people see the time behind the scenes that you have to put into if you're in a show or a game or the prep, but also the help. You know, Paul Graham was a big supporter of giving opportunities, so that was big. But I also worked alongside the wonderful Rod Black, who, you know, answered every question at any point in time, who let you make your mistakes, step on his toes, taught you. I think the biggest valuable lesson that Rod taught me was that we're in front of the camera, but the people that, you know, put us up there are integral part of the team. Get to know them. And so that was learning what a director does and a producer and the audio and the tech and all that was really critical. And that's a total Rod. And then as we move forward, you know, Cassie Campbell Pascal, obviously just having, you know, been in it longer than I, you know, just leaning on her when I got to the booth for questions and answers. And then all of the wonderful people and colleagues we have at TSN, now not at TSN, Ray Ferraro and Craig Button. And, you know, the list goes on and on. Just everyone just willing to help. Your self-test. You know, we all just kind of help one another. You need something. What do you need? You have a question. But I think that transition, people, there's an assumption because you know the game, you'll be able to articulate and see it once you're in it. Well, that's not necessarily the case. So there's a lot of work that goes into it to be able to see it, I think, to understand what you're looking for. And like anything, reps and prep. And I think that's the biggest thing.
I don't want to rush over these two things quickly, but like you were a color commentator, then you became a panelist breaking down NHL games, which was pretty cool. And how'd you handle that pressure? I mean, that was a heavy load and a big burden for you to carry, Pounds.
Yeah, I think, as you know, you've been in it and hosting and doing all the NHL analysis that you've done and PWHL and it's great we have the PWHL now because it wasn't an option then. And what I would say is, one, you know, Cassie always said, believe you belong. I'm sure she's given those words to you as well, but trusting your process, trusting your knowledge, that's the first and foremost thing, I think. But also, I think because entering the space, you know, not having a lot of other female analysts in the same position, at least where we were working, you also knew it was a responsibility to make sure that you were over prepared, that you were over this, that you were over that, like, so that you could articulate and do the best job that you possibly could, sort of, so that you know, I never wanted to, you know, you say this out loud, you don't want to set anyone else back in their opportunities. So you want to make sure you do the best job that you possibly can. And I was certainly nervous and stressed. And I think the panel's different because you have to articulate what you want to say and you've got a window of time. So learning how to do that and then
concise.
Be concise, as you know, and then not when you're working on a panel of panelists, which was hard in the beginning, and I'm way better at it now than I was, is not taking all the time if I'm first, because then the person who's last gets 5 seconds to talk. So just, it's all a team and it's understanding that. So it's, we can talk for hours about it, but it's a big team. But I think the preparation and understanding how to prepare. And now when you have people that, you know, I'm sure you have lots of people come to you, Tess, or, you know, and I do get the odd person coming to me, I'll say, okay, this is your first time? Yeah. Okay. So what are, like, how are you preparing?
How do you prepare? Yeah.
And it's not for the fact that someone doesn't want to prepare. They do.
They don't know how.
They just don't know what they need to know. Like, who would know that in a game, you know, an NHL or a PWHL game, that, you know, when there's dead silence, a lot of time a director might go to a goalie. So you should have more on your goalies. Or, you know, like those just like, what does your lineup look like? Is there space to put stuff in? So Gord Miller sent me his documents. Gord Miller said, here, take them. This is what mine looked like. And then work with these and then do what you want. So Kenzie worked with Gord's notes and then now you've tailored them to your own. So it's
that's where I want to go next, because you talked a lot about mentors that stepped in at the right time for you and kind of put their arm around you. Kenzie Lalonde stepped in very green at the 2021 Women's Worlds, and I watched single-handedly. I was like a proud mom watching you do what you did with Kenzie. So first, describe your relationship with Kenzie now, and obviously getting to work that first ever PWHL final together, which was the greatest thing.
I know
to
we
me.
could all right? The emotion.
Right?
Yeah.
And like how you mentored her.
I never ever thought of it as mentorship, Tess. I just, very talented young woman coming into the game, and not into the game, but into the mix that we were already in. And just letting her be herself, but just kind of poignantly, these things help me. Just the tips that I've received along the way, sort of trying to give them to her, or letting her find her own footing, but yet sharing some of my stories, or just, I think that the biggest thing is being yourself is sometimes you go and you think that you're supposed to be a certain way, or you're supposed to act a certain way, or call a certain way. But when you're authentically yourself, I think it naturally comes out. And I think we have a natural connection of that. And so you read each other's cadence. If I know in the beginning, I would just kind of go like this if I had something to say to get in, just because, and that's how we found our flow a bit. And now it wouldn't matter if I was at ice level. We would know the cadence and not step on each other's toes. She's always had, I think, just a knack and a skill, a natural skill. She's got the natural preparation for it, an understanding of the game. So she has the whole package. And again, I think it was just being in the reps and with someone, whoever that is, who allows her to be her. And learn as you go. And Kenzie's really great for self-monitoring and self-reflecting and evaluating at I didn't like that, or that was, but she can also let it go. And I think that's one of the biggest things in live television, much like an athlete, you have to be able to do is let it go, because you can't let it bring you down the rest of your game, because I don't know, you said one thing too fast, so again, she's helped me as much as I've helped her, really.
That's cute, Poundy.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, we love you. We love you two working together. You both did a fantastic job. And you do every time you're calling games together or apart. Big fans, and incredibly proud of you, Poundy, your story, where you came from, what you accomplished, and what you're doing now. Keep pushing those barriers. We're all cheering for you. Thanks for taking the time to join us on Jocks and Jills. You're obviously going to be... we're going to have you back on to talk hockey when it comes playoffs. So we're not getting rid of you yet, but you got some Sports Center stuff to do. So thanks, Poundy. We appreciate you sharing your story.
Awesome. Thanks, my friend.
That was awesome, Tessa. Cheryl, I would have loved to be in a room with you and Cheryl. I would have loved to see that air live.
It wasn't even just me and Cheryl. It was just everybody.
That group, you guys were so fun. So fun. iPhones killed a lot of fun.
We found they're definitely we had the French connection with the Frenchies who love to they would go out for dinner and come back with purple lips. It's how many bottles of wine got demoed, guys? Be honest, you know what I mean? Then you'd have people like myself and Poundy and Pipes and, that love to go to the casino and stuff like that. And then you'd have Vicky and Cassie who were holding up the bar, just basically throwing chirps around and having some fun. Honestly, you couldn't put us anywhere where there wasn't fun being had. We always knew how to cause shit. We always knew to have fun. And I think that sometimes that gets lost nowadays. I blame phones and stuff, but
me too.
We need more. I feel like hockey's lost a bit of the jock. You know what I mean?
We were just talking about this. You have to talk to your alma mater. We can't have dry seasons anymore. We can't do this. I'm just kidding. I don't know what it is. There needs to be a little bit more of whatever you're saying.
Go to practice guilty once in a while. Damn it.
Yeah. The good old days. Yeah. Cheryl Pounder is the queen of a dibble of wine after a game. It's not even a game if you don't have a dibble of wine after. And the thing about Cheryl, when she says a dibble, it's not a dibble. It's a
bottle each.
It's a full pour. It's a full pour. Yeah. Anyways, our FanDuel Friday Five. Let's get to them. A couple games to enjoy this weekend. Big one between Ottawa and Boston on Saturday at 2 p.m. Boston minus 137 on the money line in this game. Who you feeling? This is such a pivotal game for the Ottawa Charge. Are they going to get up off the mat, or are they going to lie down the way they did in the third period of that game on Tuesday night?
I'm going to trust that they took care of business afterwards and they understand the position they're in, and they're obviously eyeing up the standings. I'm going to take a chance and go with Ottawa on this one. I don't ever want to see a third period meltdown. I don't want to see an any period meltdown. I want to see a full 60 from this team every time. And after what happened at home against New York, I don't think we will see it again. And if we do, just start going for gold points, ladies.
Yeah, I want to see them pissed off on Saturday. I hope to see them pissed off.
And they better be.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it. Side note, speaking of the fans and how that happened on home ice, we didn't even mention all the great fan reactions. They weren't great, but like hilarious all-time fan reactions caught on the broadcast.
I know.
If any of you guys were the fans that were clipped on the broadcast and listened to Jocks and Gels, please send us a DM or something on Instagram. I want to identify you and like show you love because I always hate the idea of being the fan that gets called on the broadcast, but you guys provided some excellent visuals there. Toronto at Minnesota, Sunday at 1 p.m. Both teams minus 110 on the money line here. Over under set at 4.5 in this game.
I'm going to go over.
Okay.
Over 4.5. It's going to be
Campbell,
a 3-2 or 4.
I don't think we even mentioned Campbell when we were talking about that Toronto game. But Campbell was really good in that game.
She was. But I'm going to set the over. It's either going to be a 3-2 or a 4-2 game. An empty netter. What side am I going on? I don't know, but I'm picking the over.
Okay. I like that. That'll be an interesting one between Toronto and Minnesota. Toronto looks hot right now. They just get their power play back in order, however. But Minnesota, needs to get things back in order here.
Yep.
That's kind of all from us today, Tessa. I didn't mention it, but I'm wearing the brand new Barbie. I just got this in the mail yesterday. It's the Peace Collective and Barbie collection. I just looked on Instagram and there's a sweatsuit as well, a pink sweatsuit that's like Barbie and PWHL theme.
Like
it's
a unisuit?
A unisuit, depending on your age. Yes, it is a matching sweatsuit.
Depends if you get ID'd or not.
Depending on whether or not you get ID'd. It's a unisuit or a sweatsuit, whatever you want to call it. So really fun new collection dropping from the PWHL and Mattel and Barbie. I hope they made kid sizes. Imagine how much Annie would like this.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I can't imagine.
We'll have to check it out. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you everyone in Ottawa for forgiving us for being a little bit of a jinx. We love you guys. You guys were so nice to us when we saw you on Tuesday. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it very much. Across the league, everyone enjoy this playoff push. So much on the line with every single game right now. So make sure you're enjoying the games. Fire us some questions for Tuesday's Send It segment. If you guys want, follow us on social media. You can drop us questions for the segment or follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Blue Sky. Thank you very much to our sponsors, Shark Ninja and CCM as well, for always backing the show and being a part of this. We love you guys. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you on Tuesday.